But what's going on here right now is that we're at this turning point. The solstice is a turning point. It's the place where the sunlight reaches its greatest extent, either in the north or the south. And when it happens in the north, we get the longest day. And what we also get with the sun at zero Cancer is exactly as the sun is setting on the solstice, the heart of the galaxy is rising. So when you walk out in the evening on the solstice, you see the glow, the bright glow of the solstice sun in the northwest. And that's the northernmost extent of our star's light. And then you look to the east and the south, and what fills your entire vision all night is the heart of the galaxy. You're looking into the heart of the Great Mother all night. That's all. It fills the whole sky from horizon to horizon, basically. We're looking in towards the middle. It's astounding when you get the sense of it. And if you're in a place where it's dark enough to see the Milky Way is pretty much up, going across from the south end of the sky around toward the northeast. And that's at about midnight on the June solstice. So what we have here happening too is the very first exact square of Pluto and Uranus here as well. So there's this very graceful thing going on with the Sun and Saturn and Neptune. They're all working together in a way that's very collaborative, harmonious. And with Chiron in there too, it brings a peculiarity to it. Chiron has to do with all sorts of things related to healing, definitely spiritual healing, soul consciousness as well. Just like Jupiter is to our plans and aspirations of our material life, Chiron has that quality for our soul. Chiron reveals something of the trajectory and the wisdom, the insight, the direction, the real purpose of our existence, what our soul would know about. So that's with Neptune, and it has been with Neptune. We've been learning about our soul purpose from the ocean of consciousness for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And just now, Neptune and Chiron are starting to spread apart, just now. But they're not quite done yet. And we'll see in a minute what else they're up to. So interestingly, we have not only this square between Pluto and Uranus, which resonates not only with very strong evolutionary and even revolutionary qualities, it's also something about the discovery of something profound out of left field that had never dawned on us before. Great possibilities of innovation, renovation, realization, but it's not the expected, it would seem. It comes from the real source that's behind all the apparent structures of our earthly experience. But there's a bigger story. That's also what Pluto squaring Uranus is all about, a bigger story. And it's interesting because we also have a square going on here with the Moon and Saturn. It's not exact, but it's pretty good. Well, anyway, this energy puts these the qualities of a process that's working itself out, big process. Now, Saturn and the Moon have a natural relationship, a natural opposition in terms of their rulerships. Moon ruling 4th house, mother and home. Saturn ruling 10th house, purpose, career, destiny. And yet they work together somehow, and they're kind of in a stressful relationship here, mirroring the stressful relationship of Uranus and Pluto. So we have a very interesting dynamic, and what's at the heart of it here is the Sun and Saturn and Neptune and Chiron. And the way that speaks to me, that graceful relationship between those three, is Saturn and Neptune first. They've been working together for some time. And their interaction here, their trine, is something that lasts quite a while. Saturn's structure, Neptune consciousness, and it's fortunate, it's harmonious. So there's a structure that leads to a sense of the greater dimensions of consciousness. And there's also a knowing of the way that structure works. There's a knowing of the way our shape, our form, our situation works. So inside us and also around us. And with the sun, that brings the resonance of our expression into it. But it's also not just our personal expression and our own light. It's also the light that's pervading everything, of course. And so we see this relationship between these energetic collaborators here, and it's a fortunate pattern. So what gets my attention is Chiron. Chiron brings that soul quality back into this formula, the consciousness of the way structure really works, and that your expression is working in a harmonious way with that. There is a way that your life, your thriving, your vitality, your radiance works in conjunction with the patterns of consciousness, the circumstance of what existence is currently doing. And this Chiron here brings in an element of the way that energy is moving with you, the pattern of your resonance. And that includes, all the challenges we go through, our healing too. And so all of the things, it's like whatever we're going through, there's a pattern in that, which is like an echo or a deeper ripple, or our ripple is resonant with a deeper ripple. They're moving together. There's a connection between them. But what this says to me is that there's a potential for an intuitive insight into how those patterns, how those dynamics work. And that gives us something. In the midst of these stressful influences here, it gives us something, a possibility. We might catch it or we might see it because it's telling us there's a possibility that there's a graceful way to work with this. So the planets that we can see in the evening sky right now, and they're coming together. I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's Saturn and Mars. And they're both visible up in the south right after the sun goes down, it gets dark enough. And Saturn's not going to move very much. It's going to stay relatively close to the spot where it is. But Mars is going to move over, and they're going to form a conjunction. Mars is going to surpass Saturn. And when that happens, there's an interesting pattern that's going on here. Still, Neptune and Chiron are over here. It's not an exact trine, but Neptune is roughly trine within about 6-7 degrees of where Mars and Saturn are together. Now, what to me is even more of a significant thing to see here is when this happens, Venus is going to be directly opposite Pluto. And when that happens, so we're having an exact conjunction between Mars and Saturn, and at the same moment we're having an exact opposition between Venus and Pluto. And then look at this. There's an angle here that exists between Pluto and the conjunction of Mars and Saturn. And that angle is called a quintile. It's a fifth of the circle. So one part or one arm of a five-pointed star. That's the distance that we have here. And so we have 72 degrees between Pluto and Saturn and Mars, but we have 108 degrees then between Venus and Saturn and Mars. And that's also 3/10 of the circle. So there is a way that Venus is involved here. And remember, Saturn and Mars are together with the star Spica. It's one of the brightest stars in the northern hemisphere. That star for thousands of years has been known as the gift of the goddess. And so it was attributed with the quality of agriculture, that agriculture is the gift we received from the goddess. Well, it seems to me what this interaction here has to do with, and Venus's resonance with it, is that there's a new pattern, there's a new story afoot in terms of how our relationship exists, not just to agriculture, not just to how we scratch a living out of the earth, but it's about, you know, not just the idea of the goddess. It's the living goddess. It's the living mother of the whole entire creation. It's the every blessing that comes out of that, every bit of life, every bit of experience, every bit of joy and even heartbreak. It's the flowing blessedness of that mothering energy. That is what is moving in this. And with Mars and Saturn together here, the way this speaks to me is that Saturn, one of the things it directly relates to is the structure of our experience, the shape of things, right? We could also think of it as our circumstance, the circle of all of our interactions, all of our relationships, right? Well, Mars is bringing an attentiveness, an active principle to that situation. Last year, Venus came through and met Saturn here, right after Venus and the Comet met. Venus and the Comet met at the equinox. That was exactly at the time of the equinox. And then Venus moved on through and met with Saturn right by Spica. Now Mars is there. And what's amazing is that now Saturn will move on. But what's going to happen next is in the beginning of 2013 is there's going to be another very important alignment that resonates with this, and we'll show that last.